I'm Ross Duffer.
I'm Matt Duffer, and yeah, we created Stranger Things.
We had rejection, then success, and then rejection again. So we just huddled back in our small apartments, and we came up with a new story we wanted to tell. And this one was for a TV show, and involved a young kid in the 1980s, was kidnapped by an interdimensional monster, and his friends and family go looking for him. And we were so excited about this idea. It was what we wanted to see, and then we started pitching around, and everyone was like, that's a terrible idea, because, you know, they're like, it has kids as leads, but it's not specifically for children, and why is it in the 80s? No one cares about the 80s anymore. And so, again, we started getting those no's that we got at the beginning of their career, which is just doors slamming in our face, no, 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 no. But we kept pitching around. Eventually, this little company called Netflix heard about it. We went in there, and, you know, we just pitched our hearts out, and then we crossed our fingers, and then, you know, a year and a half later, which is really fast for Hollywood, you know, Stranger Things was out in the world.
We knew a certain audience it would appeal to. We knew it would appeal, or thought it would appeal to the people who grew up like us loving these movies from the 80s. And then what we were hoping and praying was that it would also work for a newer, younger generation. I think one of the reasons Stranger Things worked is there were a lot of people we were able to bring in who we felt are very talented, but who were also inspired by the same films that we were, so we were all speaking the same language. It is pre-internet, it is pre-cell phone. I think we were the last generation to grow up without the internet. So when we went out with our friends, we grew up in North Carolina, and you know, you would go out and there's tobacco fields, there's a railroad track.
Oh shit!
And you're wandering around, and your parents have no way of accessing you. So you could become lost, and you could, you know, you feel like you're gonna find yourself on this,
Like a treasure map.
But yeah, so when you find yourself on some sort of incredible journey, and I think that the Goonies scenario of, oh, we're gonna find a treasure map, and we're gonna find a pirate ship. I mean, it feels actually within the realm of possibility when you're that young, which is what I think why those movies resonated with us so much, because you could really see yourself. When I saw the Goonies for the first time, I was like, it felt like you were with those kids on, because they felt like us, they felt like our friends. And so that's something that was really important to us. It's really hard to write that now when, you know, it's a very different experience now when you're growing up. And I like that when these kids went off looking for their friends, it really felt like they could be in danger. There's no parent tracking them.
But part of why I think there isn't a lot of deleted scenes is these guys are they really believe in writing scenes that are propulsive, and character scenes even need to be kind of all contributing to plot. So there's very few scenes that they write where it's just, let's sit in a room and talk. You know, characters revealed, feelings are expressed, but it's always connected to plot. And so that's why almost every scene ends up being kind of germane to the show, and therefore in the show that people saw.
Barb, you wanna try? What?
The traditional good versus evil thing, and we wanted to get back to the simplicity of that. I mean, we're Star Wars fans. I love Star Wars. I love the sort of classic tale of good versus evil. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit is, you know, I mean, those are the same, and those were the stories that really fell in love with. And I think on TV specifically, there's this trend of the anti-hero. There's the guy who's kind of a really bad person, or a very complicated individual who happens to be really good at his job or whatever. Like, I've seen that story so many times. And it's been done incredibly well by like Vince Gilligan and David Chase, and you don't even want to compete with that. So the idea here was to tell a story about really good-hearted people.
Yeah, and I think we were in the 3rd grade, and our parents gave us a Hi8 video camera. I don't know if you know what Hi8 is, but for us back then, it looked great. It was high tech. We thought we were the coolest kids, and we started making movies. And the first movie we made was called The Stuffed Father, and it was about stuffed animal mobsters who went around killing each other. The second movie we made was called The Stuffed Father Part 2, and the third movie we made was The Stuffed Father Part 3.
Wait, that was the worst.
Yeah, we did that one.
Yeah.
We did that for the money, really.
Yeah.
And needless to say, the Stepfather trilogy, as epic as it was, did not get us invited to the White House. Sadly.
Yeah, no, but we're over it. We're definitely
We're over it, yeah. And as we were making these movies, we were making more and more every year, and we learned every year, and we didn't see it as learning because we loved it so much. It just felt like the most natural thing in the world. And over time, these movies started to actually become, what would you say? I'd say watchable. They were watchable. Yeah. We're from North Carolina, and Hollywood felt really far away from us, and the film industry just felt like this other galaxy. And so what we ended up doing is we went to film school in California, but I don't think, and that's a fine path. I don't think it's, what we've learned is that it's not a necessary path. I think the key is just to keep making things and doing what you love. And this, obvious as this might sound, is just not to give up.
I will say just one anecdote. What's great about kind of this time that we're living in is that two brothers from North Carolina can be filled with the urge to tell a story, and they can find a way to tell it. And that there's kind of this democratization of storytelling, and there's a way to make your story, there's a way to put your story out into the world. Dan Cohen and I, we have a company called 21 Laps, and it started off 10 years ago because I made those Night at the Museum movies. And then we decided a few years ago that we want to find other storytellers with different kinds of stories. Maybe it's a comedy, maybe it's creepy, maybe it's set in the 80s. We didn't know. And Dan Cohen came across this script and the Duffer Brothers, and literally came into my office and says, "You need to stop what you're doing. You need to read this script because there is something special here. These are voices that need to be heard." And, as you guys said, a year and a half later, here we are. And so certainly it is as hard as the Duffers described, but can I tell you also, especially to the young people here, it's worth it. When you, in your kind of young adolescent mind, or even pre-adolescent mind, think about, wow, wouldn't it be awesome to build a life around being creative? And so many grown-up forces are saying, well, that's almost impossible. Don't do that. But it is possible, and it is as great a life as you imagine right now. And we are proof.
I don't know. We were surprised how sort of quickly it picked up. But all we knew, because Netflix doesn't tell you anything. They don't give you numbers. So we're just sort of figuring this out via just the response online. And I'm not a big Twitter guy, but I sort of obsessively, looking at Twitter.
So you're a stalker.
I'm a stalker. Yeah. And so, I even remember after that first night, I was shocked at how many people the following morning, people had stayed up all night and watched it. That shocked me. And then it sort of just grew and grew from there. That first week was just amazing to see the response. And I remember, I think when we started seeing all this incredible fan art coming out, that we saw how passionate a lot of our audience was. And I don't know. It was a crazy ride.
And so I guess the reason we're telling you all this is to try as much as possible tell stories that mean something to you, that matter to you. Tell stories that you want to see out in the world. And I know it sounds easy now, but as you get out there in Los Angeles or New York, it actually becomes it's very easy to kind of lose your way. I mean, there's the phrase chase your dream, and I think it's actually like I don't think you should chase your dream at all. I think. You should chase the feeling that you have when you're making these movies, the way that makes you feel when you're making something that you love, that you should chase that feeling. And I really believe if you do that and stay true to yourself and just stay true to that the dream will then follow.